broadcast. Since I'm having internet problems and we've had some major go through, I decided to see if I can do a live broadcast. This will cover the morning video that I would be normally putting out for you. I want to talk about this country. I heard somebody say a couple weeks ago that this is not a Christian nation. And that's sad to hear because that's how it was started. The founding fathers, the whole reason we came here was to get away from the Church of England and their government-run church. The government and the church were like this. The government wanted to do something and it wasn't in the Bible, they'd rewrite the Bible. It's like today. We have Rome, who oversees everything. There are many, many good Catholics out there. But if you're a Roman Catholic, you really have problems. I think the Pope is trying, if he's not already in the running, he's trying out for the false prophet. But anyhow, getting back to our country was founded for the purpose of having freedom. Because one thing that, when we became a country, essentially, we were still arguing with England on how to behave. They still wanted to control us. Early pastors back then literally had to send their sermons to the king to have them approved. Well, some underling would do it, of course, but if you wanted to preach a sermon, you had to send it on a slow boat to China, because that's about how it was. To get over there, you might get it back in 6 months. All marked up, of course, things you can't say. So what they tried to do here, and our country was established before the Bible was put into mass production. They didn't have the Gutenberg Bible, the press, or anything to print this stuff. These things were really done by hand. So this country was founded for religious freedom and freedom of everything. They wanted complete freedom. They weren't getting it from England. And they were going to have to stand up to them. So what I want to do is I want to read a letter from Benjamin Franklin that he wrote in Philadelphia, June 28, 1787, at the Constitutional Convention that they had there. So this is Benjamin Franklin writing this letter. Mr. President, the small progress we have made after 4 or 5 weeks, close attendance and continual reasonings with each other, are different sentiments on every question, several of the last producing as many noes as ayes, is methinks a melancholy proof of the imperfection of the human understanding. We indeed seem to feel our own want of political wisdom, since we have been running about in search of it. We have gone back to the ancient history for models of government and examined the different forms of those republics, which have been formed with the seeds of their own disillusion. They no longer exist. We have viewed modern states all around Europe, but find none of their constitutions suitable for our circumstances. He goes on. In this situation of this assembly, groping as it were in the dark to find political truth, and scarce able to distinguish it when presented to us, how has it happened, sir, that we have not hitherto once thought of humbly applying to the Father of lights to illuminate our understanding? In the beginning of the contest with Great Britain, when we were sensible of danger, we had daily prayer in this room for divine protection. Our prayers, sir, were heard, and they were graciously answered. All of us who were engaged in the struggle must have observed frequent instances of superintending providence in our favor. To that kind of providence, we owe this happy opportunity of consulting in peace on the means of establishing our future national felicity. And have we now forgotten that powerful friend? Or do we imagine that we no longer need his assistance? Continuing on, I'm reading a letter penned by Benjamin Franklin. I have lived so long enough, and the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs the affairs of men. And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? We have been assured, sir, in the sacred writings that except the Lord build, they labor in vain to build it. I firmly believe this. And I also believe that without his concurring aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel. We shall be divided in our little political local interest. Our projects will be confounded, and we ourselves shall become a reproach and a byword down to future age. And what is worse, mankind may hereafter from this unfortunate instance despair in the establishment of government by human wisdom and leave it to chance, war, and conquest. He finishes up with a very important statement here. I therefore beg leave to move that henceforth prayers imploring the assistance of heaven and its blessings on our deliberators be held in this assembly every morning before we proceed to business, and that one or more clergy of the city be requested to officiate that service. For those that say that this is not a Christian nation, it was not founded by it, they have complete ignorance of our history. But of course, that is what our government is allowing the school systems to teach. If they don't teach us the truth, we won't know that we're different. But this country was founded. We have freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and the government can make no laws for or against religion. The statement that we have a separation of church and state is not in any legal document. It was in a letter between Madison and Jefferson as they were discussing how to draft the Constitution. They had to find a way to do it, and they did. The government will make no law for or against. So as we're out celebrating this weekend our independence, remember that our founding fathers knew what they were doing when they set this up. They did not want a government, state-run religion, because that's what they left behind. That's what they were persecuted with. And we're going right back to that. The harlot's going to set up our government. It's already in the process. And if it's not the Pope, someone like him is going to be the false prophet. We have those talked about in the Bible. They don't have good for us. They only have good for them because they're going to set this world up with a human understanding, something that Benjamin Franklin knew would not work. Now, this was also read this morning in church. I managed to get over to that church that's just outside my park that I'm in. God bless everyone. Yes, thank you. And because of that, it reminded me about this because I'd forgotten about it. I was going to do my message on Francis Scott Key, another important founder in what we do. His intention was not to go out on a boat and write a poem or a letter, love letter to this country. Thank you. His intent was he was a lawyer by trade, and there was a doctor that had been captured by the British, and his job was to go seek release of this doctor, who said some things against Britain that he shouldn't have, under the circumstances. And Scott Key did win his release, but when he got on the ship to argue for him, they told him, we're about to go into battle. I can't release you because then you can let the enemy know what we're doing. So you're going to have to stay here through this whole battle, the Battle of Fort McHenry. Now, they had been attacked before. They weren't expecting this one, but they'd been attacked before. So they built underground bunkers, built their banks sloped so that if a cannon was shot at them, it would bounce off and do no harm. And they reinforced the ramparts, everything, so it was all refortified. This was the test. And when the ships got there and they opened fire, Sir Francis Scott Key got to watch it. Say, can you see by the dawn's early light? It went all night. And that's why it needed the light of the bombs bursting in air so that they could see the flag. When they rose the flag up there, that took courage. And they kept firing, and they tried to take it down, and they couldn't. God was protecting them. And he penned the poem, as he called it, which later became the Star-Spangled Banner. And it was put to a British drinking song, which was sort of a slap in the face to Britain, because they were the ones that were attacking him. But our meager young nation, because of prayer, 13 colonies, stood up against the world leader at the time. Britain was all over the place. They had countries that they'd taken over in Africa and all around the world. They were imperialists. They were going out. And because they had the church in their back pocket, they were setting up their churches around in these countries. So they were spreading their incorrect religion. Religion doesn't free, only Jesus frees. Religious sometimes is the cause of many types of evil that we know about. But our country was founded as a Christian nation, and those that deny it either are liars or totally ignorant of history, or both, because our history tells us all about it. Yeah, we made mistakes. We're human. But we've got freedom here in this country. We've had it for all this time. It's only recently that they've been cutting into this freedom. Sometimes people would come in and take it away, but the courts would give it right back. And right now, if we want to, frankly, if we want to speed things up, let's get a revival going. If we can turn back, if we can push back against the harlot's been just nudging its way along, not really making any big moves to alarm the people. There's a few that's out there, but the media is easily covering them. If we push them, if we get them to where they have to move fast, yes, God bless. If we push them so that they have to make a bold move to step out and stop us, that might trigger everything to get moving. We're in kind of a stagnant mode right now. Nothing's really happening. Everybody's waiting for the other person to make the move. So the best way to push them is to push back spiritually. We're the restrainer. And if we really want to be given that title, we have to do our bit. Yeah, they're still playing with physics. They're never going to figure it out. I was a physics major in school when I first started, and I've worked at the Stanford Linear Accelerator Center. And after talking to one of their physicists and realizing that he was never going to figure it out, they don't know how to think outside the box. Every major discovery in science has been discovered by somebody who thought outside the box. Are they going to figure it out? I don't think so, because they're not supposed to. we figured out the atom so that we could come up with nuclear power, but that's a two-edged sword, depending on which way you want to turn it. It is the cheapest and most economical, frankly, cleanest energy that we can come up with. But if it's not done right, it's deadly. And of course, if you make uranium byproducts and then enrich them, you can make bombs, which is what Iran's doing right now. Iran's got their 90% concentrators working 24/7. When they get enough of that, they'll be able to make a bomb. They may already have enough for one. They're probably going to have to test it. But will they test it live, or will they test it someplace underground so we can just know that they did it? That's what a lot of the countries did. Korea did that. They did a lot of underground testing. And we can tell by the seismic waves just how big it is, so we can know whether they got it right or not. There's so much of Revelation that talks about cities being uninhabitable. It sounds to me like either bio or nuclear. My guess would be nuclear, because nobody's used them up to this point. They've been afraid to. Okay, I hope the sound is okay on this. I forgot to bring my microphone. I know it works better. I gotta keep it with this, but this is sort of impromptu. We just had a very big storm go through, and lightning and all kinds of stuff. I'm fine. The tent's fine. It's dry, but still, I was worried about not having power up here, so I thought I'd better come and check it out. And I brought this just in case. Keep praying for our country. Pray for our president that he will see the light. Pray for everybody in Congress that they will see the light. Pray that we can stop the harlot from influencing. The harlot is the puppeteer. Who makes up the harlot? I don't know. I would imagine that the Antichrist is probably somewhere in the mix, but unknown to everybody. When Prince Charles was speaking to the World Assembly, he said, if this person would go ahead and take the money that he's got and put it to use right now, he could change things. Who was he talking about? We don't know. The bigwigs know what's going on. They know who's in charge, but we don't. They won't tell us. They want us to think these puppets that they put in office are them. If they want us to think that our current president is making decisions, they should have got us as one that's not senile. But it's obvious that he can't be making these decisions. Somebody else is. And he doesn't do well without a teleprompter. So pray for our country. Let's get a little revival going on right now. If we can do that, I think it will push those in power to push back harder. We have the power of God behind us, and they don't. They have the power of Satan, who is the ruler of this earth. But he has no power near what God has. So let's push back. Let's pray for this country, that it return to its roots, that we can get rid of this intertwining that they've done, the deep culture that's embedded in us now. Only God could unentangle this. Hydra is there. You cut off one head, the others are still there. But God could fix it. We want out of here. We want to carry with us the baggage, and we can carry something to heaven. The souls we've helped win. And when we get to the Bema seat, we're all going to get one crown. The crown of glory, but there's 5 crowns. Wouldn't you like to have them all? Help win souls. There's a crown. We're going to go up there to work. Now, it's fun work. God says my yoke is light and my yoke is, I got to get the wordage right. That's not coming to me, but in any case, he won't make us work very hard for what we have to do. One, he's got enough of us. How many Christians do you think we have on this earth? Lots of them. Certainly a billion. Now, how many are true Christians? I don't know. We're going to find out. We're not to judge now, but we will find out. He's got enough of us to work. We're going to be here through the millennium helping out. We're going to go to heaven first and come back with our glorified body so we can do the same thing that the angels do, go back and forth. And the same thing that Satan has had the luxury of doing from the beginning. He's about to lose that. Someone posted a status earlier that they saw where Satan's about to be thrown out of heaven. We all should jump for joy and cheer. And maybe on the way up, it has saved God from having to lift us a foot or so off the ground to take us up to the clouds, because we're going to be raptured shortly after. I keep saying the rapture is not tied to any Jewish holiday. There was no need to. It's not tied to anything that God was unaware of. If it's involving the Jews, they've got scheduled holidays. It's not going to sneak up on them and have them go, oh, darn, I forgot the Feast of Trumpets. I should have pulled everybody up. I better do it quickly. He knows all about it. The only variable which he knows about but needs immediate reaction would be the rapture to save us from Satan. Imagine how mad he's going to be when he gets thrown out of his fancy luxury apartment or condo or whatever he's in. Jesus has gone to prepare for us a mansion. Well, the proper word should have been a luxury apartment, not a mansion, because that's the way the Galilean wedding would have been. The son would have put a huppah onto the house of the father, and that's where he and his bride would go. And it's the same thing. It is a Galilean wedding, all the way up until the wedding feast. And that's where they've got it wrong. There will be a wedding feast, yes. But at the very, very end, when all the Christians have been saved, why have a wedding feast when you don't have all the bride there? It will be at the very end, and it will be in the city of Jerusalem, the new one. So it will be in a glorious city, a better place I can't think of to have a big wedding feast. But that would be when it's all over. In the meantime, we've got work to do. Easy work, but work. Some may be involved in battles, others in prayer. But whatever it is, we're going to be there. And we're going to help Jesus run the millennium. There are those that are going to be raptured at two different points through this time frame. There are 3 raptures in the Bible. The big one in the beginning, that's of course everyone's waiting for. There'd be one in the middle for the 144,000, and there'd be one at the end for the saints that made it that far. So that's why when they say there's only a rapture at the end, well, they're reading about the rapture at the end. They're just missing the other 2. They're confusing. Too many people confuse the second coming and the rapture. The second coming is the day that we won't know about. The rapture, it doesn't say anything other than the fact that it will be on earth, to know that it's a distinction between the second coming. In the second coming, he's coming down with an army and angels ahead of him blowing their trumpets, drawing attention to himself. Here I am, I'm coming to take over. That's the second coming. The rapture, he comes down, there is a trumpet, but he stops at the clouds. He doesn't come to the earth. And we're brought up to him. That's how we know that there's a rapture and that it's different from the second coming. The descriptions aren't the same. Jesus was talking about the second coming. Why would he tell Jews about the rapture? Because unless they were Christians, they wouldn't know anything about it. They wouldn't care. And the Jews are not going to get to heaven unless they can say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Jesus said that. So they're not going to get up there by a rapture. unless they're Christians during the tribulation, or if there are Christian Jews right now, and they will be in the rapture. But they're Christians. They have a Jewish heritage, but that isn't going to get them to heaven, only being a Christian will. Okay. Since I'm live, I don't have to worry about uploading this, which is great. Keep our country in prayer. Let's overwhelm this harlot. Overwhelm the harlot with our prayers to protect this country, to stop the harlot in its tracks, to reverse the harlot. The harlot is basically slowly moving in their direction. And if we start pushing back, it'll force the harlot to make a move, which will force Satan to make a move. And that will get us out of here sooner. Okay? I want to go home. There's still people to help, so we keep working while we're here. Don't sit in a rocking chair and do nothing. But of course, I'm doing something right now. I'm not sitting in a rocking chair doing nothing. Help people while we're here, and then we can get out of here. Okay, until we meet in the clouds, thank everybody for joining in. I'll go back and look through the comments, see if I missed any, but you have a blessed weekend. And remember, the founding fathers were Christian.